The Collegian is the student-run independent newspaper at SDSU, and it's been around since 1885. Today, I'm here with current editor-in-chief Jordan Rushi, and she's here to talk about all of the changes and things to come here with the student-run newspaper. Thanks for being here today, Jordan.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, how did you become the editor-in-chief of the Collegian?
So, I had and my managing editor, Gracie, and we both had kind of a quick promotion. We both started spring semester of our freshman years. We're both copy editors. The year after that, I was lifestyles editor, she was the news editor. And then the year after that, our former editor-in-chief, Emily Seaton, and our managing editor, Mikey Birch, were both graduating. We were the only two who were sticking around for the next year's staff, so we got promoted. So she became managing editor, I became editor-in-chief.
So you're currently a junior here at SDSU, and you're studying English and journalism. Mm-hmm. How does this experience at the Collegian help you for your future career?
Well, I'm definitely comfortable with a lot of different types of writing now, but I think it's helped me, there's a certain point where your articles in the newspaper have to take on sort of a story quality to them, because otherwise people aren't going to be interested. And it depends on what you're writing about, of course. But I think having that English background with creative writing and, literature analysis and all that kind of stuff has helped my newspaper and AP style and all that writing to take on a bit more of that familiar quality, and like that readability that I think is what makes it, a lot better, hopefully. I don't know. I've just become really comfortable writing in a lot of different scenarios because of that.
Nice. And for those who may not have read the Collegian before or seen its social media, visited it online, what kind of things do you guys cover?
We cover pretty much everything that we can related to SDSU, sometimes, the Board of Regents in a couple of cases, and, Brookings community in general if it applies. So we will talk about sports. We've got a great sports section this year. We've got a great lifestyles and entertainment. Our head editors for those two departments are doing great. News editors are doing great as well. We've got a lot of stuff with, essay, events on campus, features, just pretty much everything that we can think of. Our next issue coming up, since it's Native American History Month, we're doing a lot of content centered around that and, what our Indigenous students on campus are up to. We have a lot of themed content sometimes as well.
So based on the content that you have in the newspaper, how do you guys come up with your story ideas? Can students come and pitch ideas? Do you have a meeting about it? How do you decide what content goes into the newspaper?
Yes. So what we do is we have reporter meetings at 5 o'clock, usually on Monday nights, unless there's, a Monday off, then it's probably Tuesday. Where people can come down to the Collegian office. It's down in the basement of the Union. We're right behind Blueprint. They can come to the meeting. We'll usually have a list of story ideas that we've gotten either from, our classmates, from online, events coming up. So we'll have a list of that. People can pick from the list. Or if you have something that you're really passionate about, there's like a certain topic that you just love writing about, or you have your own idea, or really anything like that, we encourage people to pitch their own ideas. And most of the time we will let them write about that if they want, and then they can send it back to us, and usually it'll end up in the next issue's paper.
And you don't have to be a journalism major to write for the newspaper.
No, of course not. I mean, our last managing editor was an engineering student. And he did a great job writing articles. So yeah, if you're interested in writing at all, even if you have no experience with AP style or how newspapers work or anything, like we will teach you. That is part of our job, is to get reporters to know what they need to write about and how to write it as best as they can.
And part of that now, it never used to be this way before, but now since the Collegian is under the department but still remains independent, part of the curriculum for certain journalism classes is to write for the Collegian. How has that helped you guys out with content and helping others learn how to write news?
Yeah. So we're working a little bit more with the School of Communications and Journalism, COJO. So classes like feature writing and basic news writing, those students are required to come to at least one of our reporter meetings, get a story from us to then be used for their class. And most of their content is encouraged to get published, to submit to us and get published in the newspaper. And most of the time we do, because honestly, we've had a lot of really great stories from those 2 classes this year. But it's helped a lot because last year with COVID and having a pretty small staff, we did not really have as much content as we wanted to be able to really feel comfortable with, the amount of stories that we had. We always had enough, but there were some weeks where it was a little, dicey getting enough for the paper. And this year I can confidently say we've almost had too much news. We've had to go, usually last year we were lucky if we could fill a 12-page paper. This year we've probably done up to a 20-page paper at least 2 or 3 times now.
How can people advertise through it with the Collegian? Because that's part of adding pages, right? How many advertisements you have?
Oh, yeah. And if there is anyone who's interested in advertising with the Collegian, fantastic. We would love to have you because that is how we keep running, is that money from the advertisements are what, pays me and my staff and everyone else. But if you're interested in that, you can reach out to any of our ad team members. Elise Heish and Leslie Abarca are our 2 ad reps, and then there's a couple other people on the team, but you can reach out to any of them.
And their information is on the website.
Yes.
Advertising with the Collegian, I think personally, is great because not only does this paper go out in the university, it also goes out into the community as well. Tell me where people can find the Collegian.
So you can find it in quite a few places around campus, for sure. We've got 2 spots in the Union. I know we've got a couple in a few dorms. There's some at Frost Arena and the library. Almost every building, I think you can find at least a few lying around. As far as the community, now I don't know exactly where all the drop spots are. I know there are a couple at like Starbucks. I think there's a few at Hy-Vee. I can't think of any other spots off the top of my head, but you can find it in quite a few like places downtown. I know a lot of businesses have it.
And they're free. You don't have to pay for them.
Yep. Nope. Completely free.
So students, with all of that great exposure, on campus and in the community where the Collegian lies, not only can you get experience writing news or write something that you're passionate about, you also can get paid to write stories, correct?
Yep. So we don't have any open spots on our staff at the moment, but you do get paid for that. We have either you can get a stipend or you get a set amount every month, or we also allow you to do work study with us as well. And then if you aren't really interested in being on staff, but you still want to write for us, that is also fine. You get paid per story. We have kind of a tier system. So, for example, if you write a really well thought out, in-depth, 900 to 1,000 word story with photos and cut lines and headlines and all of that good stuff, you can get up to $40 per story. So there is a lot of money to be made writing for the Collegian.
Not only does the Collegian have stories, but, they have to have visuals as well. There are designers who create graphics and page layouts, and there are photographers who go out and take photos. Do you have any positions or availability for people who are interested in those areas?
If you're interested in graphic design or, drawing and you want to create graphics for us, amazing. Please do, because we are always looking for more graphics. There's a lot of options. We have 2 social media coordinators. And so if you're ever interested in social media, you can always come by and talk to us about that.
The Collegian isn't the only student media organization on campus. KSDJ is also in the basement of the Union as well. Can you tell me a little bit about KSDJ?
Yeah, so KSDJ is SDSU's radio station. It's run completely by students. They have their advisor, of course, too, Brian. And they, what you can do if you want to work for KSDJ is you can run your own radio show. I think they have a couple different slots. You can do it for an hour, a couple hours if you want, whatever works best for you. You can basically talk about whatever you want to, but it's a really great experience if there's something that you're very passionate about and you want to sit on the radio and talk about it for an hour or 2 hours at a time. They have there's one girl that I know of, Adrienne Lipinski. She writes for us as well. She's one of our ag reporters. She does an ag show talking about ag news and KSDJ, and it's very popular. So they'd like to branch out a little bit more as well. So, sports stuff, news stuff. If, you have a club that you want to talk about, if, there's, want to talk about movies, literally anything that you want to talk about, I think they will be happy to let you do a show.
So if broadcast is a little bit more your thing, you definitely can go over to KSDJ and speak about things that you're passionate about as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I've heard it's a lot of fun.
I can imagine. I think it would be a lot of fun.
If I had time, I would probably be on there talking about something. I'd think of something. I don't have time to do it. So those of you who do, for sure, go check that out.
Right? Exactly. And both KSDJ and the Collegian are under a student media task force. Even though those two things have been around for a long time, you guys are looking to do a rebrand here, maybe next semester. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this summer, KSDJ and the Collegian came under a little bit more of the umbrella of Kojo. So we're obviously both still independent. Students have the final say on the content still. But we get a little bit more support with, equipment and content like we talked about earlier for the Collegian, student help, stuff like that. So with that, we are looking at kind of rebranding student media a little bit, so we can have kind of our own one, our brand, our own name, something that people can find us under a little bit easier and, turn it into a little bit more of a professional name that we can put out, if we have to say travel somewhere to cover something. Be on the lookout for kind of when we announce that, because we do have a thing we're planning where students can get involved in this process as well.
Very nice. Jordan, tell me about how valuable the experience being a part of student media is.
I mean, it's really a legacy at this point. There are people who work at huge newspapers now who were editors of the Collegian or just even on the staff of the Collegian. Our advisor Jim was on the Collegian. Steve Erpenbach from the foundation was on the Collegian. So is his wife. So there are tons of people who are in really important positions now who started out on the Collegian, and they've said many times to both me and my other staff members that was what ended up shaping, their careers. And it's just a really useful way to kind of introduce yourselves to the world of journalism and, newspapers and everything. Because there are a lot of people, looking to hire college students, especially from SDSU. If they see one, they'll ask, were you on the Collegian or did you write for the Collegian? So, if you're looking to kind of start getting involved more in that job search, and you haven't written for the Collegian yet, I would highly recommend that you do so, because that will get you very far in getting a job later on.
Well, not only does it teach you how to write news, which is a good skill for those looking to go into journalism, but it also teaches you how to write effectively, how to get sources, how to make sure you get things correct. Those are important skills too. It also teaches you, to work really hard into getting those things. And, sometimes I feel like the journalist's work ethic is a little bit different, but maybe I'm biased.
I mean, there's a certain point, and we've talked about this a lot recently, actually, like in a couple of my classes, going out and just approaching people and just saying like, hey, I work for the paper, I'm writing a story, do you want to comment on it? That is terrifying sometimes. And so working at the Collegian will get you out of your comfort zone very, very fast. And honestly, it's one of the best things that happened to me.
And it doesn't even have to be that intense, even if you're just writing about something that you're passionate about, but maybe you're a little bit shy or you just want to know more information and develop more connections. The Collegian's a great way to do that.
Yeah. That was a bit of an extreme example, but yeah. No, even just going out, talking to people that you wouldn't normally get a chance to talk to, because that was also something I encountered. Clubs and organizations and offices that I really wouldn't have had a reason to go and approach before. Now I know those people by name and they know me, and we say hi to each other in the hall because I wrote maybe even just one story about them, maybe like 2 years ago, but we still know each other. And so it gets you very deeply embedded in kind of the world and like the community of SDSU very quickly. And I think that's an amazing thing, because there are so many people now that I know that I would never have known if I hadn't worked for the paper.
That's awesome. Great way to put it, Jordan. Yeah. So if you're interested in news, sports, opinion, lifestyle, go work for the Collegian. Go write a story. You never know until you try. This is Between Classes. Thanks for listening.